Phillies are 2-0 in the Rob Thompson era, and Rob Thompson is the best manager in Phillies history. I am completely over exaggerating on that point, but still another very good win by this Phillies team. Like I said, they are 2-0 in the Rob Thompson era. They are now on a 3-game win streak. Zack Wheeler battled today. Phillies exploded in the first inning for 5 runs. Offense went quiet basically throughout the game. Lorenzen, you can say, dealt basically. He bounced back after that terrible first inning, and he shut the Phillies down. Phillies get some insurance runs. Bullpen was really solid in tonight's game, and they shut down the Angels offense once again. Mike Trout is really struggling. JT Realmuto, 3 doubles in this game. Johan Camargo had 4 RBIs in this game, so that was completely unexpected. And also, Alec Bohm is going through a lot of frustration right now. You saw that basically go throughout the game. He's in the midst of a really large slump. You see the average dropping to now like around 250 something. So he's going through a little slump after he got off to that hot start to the season in the batter's box. So this is basically his real first slump in the offensive, side of the game this season, and he's really feeling it right now. And he showed that frustration in the dugout. I wish he wouldn't do it that much because he was batting, hitting the bat on the where they keep the bats at in the dugout, and the bat ricocheted off the piece of wood and it hit him back in the neck, and he cut himself on that aspect. And you saw that on one of the part of the broadcast when they showed the replay. He turned around and you saw a huge thing of blood dripping down his cheek. So thing came back to haunt him, I guess. But Alec Bohm is really feeling it right now, but I do believe he will get himself out of this rut because, in my honest opinion, I still believe he is a very good hitter. And what I like from Rob Thompson right now in these first 2 games, and I think he said it before the game as well, about playing the young guys consistently. These guys deserve time to play. They bring energy to the clubhouse, and they deserve to be in the lineup every single day, which is what I like to hear from Nets. And I think that's one of the more important things to do is let young guys continue to play. Let Mickey Moniak play. Let Alec Bohm play. Let Bryson Stott play. And Bryson Stott is going to get more time, with the injury to Gene Segura and Nick Maton right now. He is now considered day-to-day, which is thankfully from that situation. It wasn't too serious with that situation. So you're going to see Bryson Stott more. Most likely when Didi Gregorius comes back, he's going to slot in at shortstop, and you're going to be seeing some split time most likely between, I would say, Bryson Stott and Nick Maton at second base. That is what I am going to assume right now. But still, overall, they look confident in these last 2 games. But still, I'm not the biggest fan of the offense going really quiet after that large first inning when you do score 5 runs. But hey, your pitching came to play today. Zack Wheeler, even though the Angels, they worked the count a lot, they battled. Zack Wheeler battled basically throughout this entire game. He still went a strong 6 innings. He struck out 9. So really good performance from Zack Wheeler, and your bullpen was really solid overall. Brad Hand, Seranthony Dominguez clocking 100 miles an hour consistently. And then you get Connor Brogdon out there in the 9th inning. So overall, really, really solid 2 games with Rob Thompson, and it was a really solid game overall from this Phillies team. So before we get into the rest of this game, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports, and the most important thing you can do is hit that subscribe button. I will greatly appreciate that. If you're looking for all the latest Philadelphia sports news, recaps, and events, this is the place to be at, depending on the outcome, great or miserable, depending on the outcome. And if you are a current viewer of the channel, I am grateful for you being here that long and looking to continue that down the road. And if you're looking for tickets to upcoming sporting events, concerts, whatever you can think of, use the code TTP Sports down below for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. So basically, get yourself tickets to anything you can think of, concerts, anything, Phillies upcoming games, maybe get some tickets to that, $20. Basically takes away the fees. Use that for parking, concessions, anything you can think of. Great deal. Don't pass on it. Use the code TTP Sports for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek today. So the Phillies take the 2nd game of the series. So they basically win the series between them and the Los Angeles Angels. That's now a 10-game losing streak for the Angels. So they're in a very large rut right now that they just can't seem to get themselves out of. Phillies are now 24-29 on the season. They're 5 games now below 500. And like I said, they are now on a 3-game win streak after losing their 5 in a row a couple of days ago. So they're feeling themselves right now, which is a good thing. Like I said, the most important thing right now for this team is to find a way to build confidence. But the one issue I do have with this game is that you put 5 runs up in the first inning and then you basically go quiet the rest of the game. I believe you only had like 3 hits or something like that since the first inning, and I think JT Realmuto had 2 of those. So I'm not the biggest fan of that, but the 5-run lead was enough for Zack Wheeler in the bullpen, so they only allowed 2 runs basically to the Angels, and I think both of those were off the bat of Jared Walsh. So I guess you can say no harm done. But like I said, I'm still not the fan of the offense going quiet right there. That's not, really bode well. If you consistently do that, when you get to a pitcher that early, I'd like to see, keep going there, try to get him out as early as possible. Don't let him bounce back, and you basically keep his team in the game. But still, overall, not really going to overly complain because you got the win. You got the win, and that's all that matters. Your pitching helped the offense. Your offense got 5 runs, and you chipped in some insurance in the bottom of the 8th inning. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So basically, going into this game, the first couple of innings took a little bit, but then this game kind of, flew by a little bit. It kind of did when really everything was going like really quiet. So you go to that bottom of the first inning, and it was a really long bottom of the first inning. Phillies batted around. Kyle Schwarber barely missed a home run and went off the top of the wall, so he gets a leadoff double on the first pitch once again. So Kyle Schwarber, attacking early in the count, gets a leadoff double. Bryce Harper works a walk. Rhys Hoskins did line out, so he was able to move Kyle Schwarber over to third base, which I do like Kyle Schwarber being aggressive there. Nick Castellanos works a walk, so you get a bases loaded situation for JT Realmuto. He attacks early in the count on the first pitch, and he doubles down the left field line, scores 2 runs, makes it a 2-0 Phillies lead. And then Alec Bohm strikes out, so you get 2 outs in this situation. Bryson Stott walks, so you get a couple of more guys on base. Johan Camargo singles, which scores Nick Castellanos and scores JT Realmuto, makes it a 4-run ball game, 4-0 there. And then Mickey Moniak kind of got some help from Lorenzen on the pitcher's mound. He kind of bobbled with the ball a little bit. It allowed a run to score, made it a 5-0 ball game. So there you go. There was another situation with Rhys Hoskins. He had the bases loaded with 2 outs, but he struck out. But at the end of the day, you can also say, okay, a 5-run first inning, that's more than enough, I guess you can say. In that instance, just try to score some runs the next of the game when you're getting to the pitcher, it looks like. Zack Wheeler basically battled throughout this ball game. Angels, they had some certain situations when they had runners on, but Zack Wheeler managed to get out of those situations. And in the top of the third, they got an RBI single with 2 outs by Jared Walsh, made it a 5-1 ball game. And then eventually they made it a 5-2 ball game in the top of the 5th inning. Jared Walsh, another 2-out RBI. So you were kind of thinking about, the Angels going to chip into this lead. Are the Phillies going to find a way to blow this? But eventually they didn't. Overall, still a pretty solid game. But still, like I said, this game kind of did fly by the rest of the way. Like I said, 1, 2, 3 innings, 1, 2, 3 innings. It was just very quick innings going the rest of the way, which was, I guess kind of boring. And, there was like instances during the broadcast because they were on Fox today. So you were seeing a lot of stuff from like John Schmaltz. He was talking about like a candy bar during one of the innings. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about here? Like, seriously, talk about the game. Don't talk about a candy bar in the broadcast booth. But what are you going to do? It's national broadcast. They're going to be doing something interesting every single time. But they did show Rhys Hoskins talking a little bit during one of the innings, and he kept talking to the guys that were on first base. Hey, you got to steal first? Are you going to steal second? Are you going to steal second? And then he was talking to Mike Trout, who was on first base. He's like, hey, you got to steal second. And we're like, how have you not stolen the base this year yet, or something like that? It was a little bit of funny things there. And like I said, with the Alec Bohm situation, I believe that was in the first inning when the Phillies were going on that rally where he struck out on 3 pitches, and then you saw him in the dugout banging the bat on, where they keep the bats at, where he accidentally hit himself in the face, basically from a ricochet from the bat, and he cut himself. And also Alec Bohm during this game too, he barely missed a home run to deep center field. It just died right at the warning track. So honestly, I do believe, like I said, I do believe he's going to get himself out of this rut. I do believe he is a good hitter. Right now, he's just going through it. He's still a young player in this league. He's going to go through his ups and downs. I do believe he's going to get out of this rut. You just got to find a way to do it. Just got to find a way to get yourself out of it. And like what Rob Thompson said, he's going to continuously play these young guys. So the more games Alec Bohm's going to play, the more, basically he's going to find a way to get out of it sooner rather than later. So that's basically a good thing right there. So basically a 5-2 game through the entire thing. Brad Hand comes out in the 7th inning, 1-2-3. Anthony Dominguez in the top of the 8th. He allowed a 2-out double, but he gets 2 strikeouts on balls that are 99 miles an hour, just clocking the heat gun up there. So a really good inning by Anthony Dominguez. Phillies in the bottom of the 8th inning with their former teammate Archie Bradley out there. JT Realmuto barely misses a home run, doubles to the right center field gap. Bryson Stott walks. Wild pitch moves Stott over to second base, so you get a second and third situation for Johan Camargo. He singles on a full count. He brings in 2 runs, makes it a 7-2 ball game. Those are his 4th RBIs on the night. So a really good game from Johan Camargo there. Then you go to the top of the 9th inning. Connor Brogdon comes out there with a 5-run lead, and he gets a very, very quick inning. Like, very quick. I believe he had under 10 pitches in that inning. So very, very solid inning from Connor Brogdon out there. I do say so myself. Going to the lineup tonight, Kyle Schwarber went 1 for 4 with a walk. Rhys Hoskins went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts in this ballgame. So a quiet day for Rhys. A sort of quiet day from Bryce Harper. He went over 2 with a run scored, but he did walk 2 times as well. Quiet night for Nick Castellanos. He went over 3 with a walk and a run scored. JT Realmuto was fantastic at the plate. He went 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. He had 3 doubles on the night. Alec Bohm goes over 4 with 2 strikeouts, so now his average is dipped to 251. Like I said, he's in the middle of a big rut right now, but I do believe he's eventually going to get out of it. Bryson Stott went over 2, 2 runs scored, but he also had 2 walks as well. Johan Camargo, 2 for 4 with 2 2-run singles, so that's 4 RBIs on the night. And Mickey Moniak went 1 for 3 with an RBI in this ballgame. The Phillies had 7 walks in this game, so that's really good as well. Runners in scoring position, the Phillies were 4 for 11. Going to the pitching side, Zack Wheeler, 6 innings pitched, 6 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts on 99 pitches. His ERA is now 3.14. It continues to go down, which is a really good thing. Zack Wheeler has been very, very solid basically over the last month and a half. He was the pitcher of the month in May, so that's a really good thing to see out of Zack Wheeler after, basically not pitching at all in spring training. You knew he was going to have that slow start to the year, basically getting his arm back together. So, yeah, this is basically your ace right here in Zack Wheeler going out there and dealing. And he battled tonight, definitely. Brad Hand in his 7th inning pitched a full inning with 13 pitches only. His ERA is actually at 1.13. So that's something I did not expect to see. I think the Corey Seidman actually posted on Twitter after that inning by Brad Hand. He's had 3 straight games of 1, 2, 3 innings. So, hey, Brad Hand has been a really reliable guy out of the bullpen, even though I kind of do think the ERA is a little skewed because he's had situations where he does allow inherited runners to score, but still a 1.13 ERA is nothing to joke about. So he has been really solid overall for this Phillies team. Anthony Dominguez in his inning of work allowed 1 hit with 2 strikeouts on 17 pitches. His ERA is to 1.74. So he has been really dominant out of the bullpen. Connor Brogdon continues to be solid as well with his inning and struck out 1 on 7 pitches. His ERA is down to 2.61. So those are really 3 guys that have been more reliable than not out of the bullpen. So that's a really good thing to see right there. And hey, honestly, would you think if Joe Girardi was there? Would you kind of think that he went to Corey Knebel in that situation? But hey, I kind of do like going to Connor Brogdon. I was like thinking to myself, do you go to Corey Knebel in this situation? Because even though Rob Thompson did say he's not going to have any strict procedures with this bullpen, so maybe that's he thinks he'll go to guys 3 days in a row. And I was kind of thinking to myself, hey, do you go to Corey Knebel in this situation? Because technically you do have a day off on Monday before you go to Milwaukee for that 3-game set. So, hey, maybe using a guy like a Corey Knebel in that 9th inning situation wouldn't be that big of a deal because you have an off day in the next couple of days. But, hey, he decided to go to Connor Brogdon, and he had a very quick inning. So I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever. You get your closer a day off when you desperately don't need him for the past couple of nights. So that's a really good thing to see right there. And like I said, overall, really, really solid game for this Phillies team overall. So going to the rest of this series, basically one more game left in this 3-game set. It's going to be tomorrow afternoon at 1:35. Kyle Gibson's going to be going up against Patrick Sandoval. So the Phillies do have a chance to get the sweep tomorrow. They already win this series against the Los Angeles Angels, but it would be nice to get a sweep against this team who is in the midst of a major, major losing streak. Like I said, 10 straight games for this Angels team that they have lost. They look really lost at the plate right now. They look really lost overall as a team. Like I said earlier on, Mike Trout is in a huge slump. basically, like I was talking about Alec Bohm's slump, Mike Trout's in a huge slump right now, and I believe he hasn't had a hit. He's like over, I believe, over 20 something or 1 for 20 something in his last so many at bats, and it's the longest slump of his entire career. So hey, he's feeling it right now. So that's really, it's going to be a interesting thing to see what happens tomorrow in the final game of this series. I see some people over here talking in the chat. Maurice says that Rob Thompson's not overthinking so far. So yeah, that's been a really decent showcasing in 2 games for Rob Thompson's, first 2 games in a Phillies career as his first, career as a manager. And honestly, what's his plus minus? His run differential in the Phillies uniform so far. So yesterday would have made it a plus 10 since they scored 10 runs. And then they score 7 runs today. That'd be and then they allowed 2. So what would that be? Like a plus 15 run differential or something like that as a Phillies manager. So hey, he has a really good run differential too in his first 2 games. So that's something to say there. Johnny says 2-0 in the post-Girardi era. Trout is in a horrid slump, now batting 278. 2 weeks ago, he was batting in the 340s. Yeah, that's something like basically like I was talking about Alec Bohm. Like so many weeks ago, he was batting in the 300s, and now he's in this huge slump. He's batting around the 250s. So major slumps can happen to anyone. You saw Nick Castellanos go for that huge slump a couple of weeks ago too. Looks like he's starting to get out of it. He's being more consistent than not, which is a good thing. But just shows to go that even the best players can go through huge slumps. And this sadly is probably one of the worst, is the worst slump in his entire career. So I guess you could say thankfully he's going through this major slump in Philadelphia where you don't have to see him rake consistently. Even though I love myself some Mike Trout, you don't have to do damage when you're in Philadelphia. I more appreciate when you're in a slump. So my night will be less stressful. Johnny also says, good to see Realmuto with 3 doubles. He's had a rough start to the season. Need him to be at least steady. Good sign for him tonight. Yeah. And he also had just a hard, like a great throw trying to throw out Shohei Ohtani trying to steal second base. I believe that was in the first inning or something like that. I believe so. And yeah, it was basically just a great day for JT. He's been good more times than not. He's had some multi-hit games. He's had some situations where he's been clutch, over the past couple of weeks, like going back to the Brave series. So overall, he's been much better at the plate, and that's really good to see that he's maybe starting to find his groove a little bit. And that's basically when you're talking about a lot of these guys in the lineup. Schwarber looks like he's getting a lot better to start this month of June. He has, at least 3 home runs. He's had a double tonight. So he looks like he's feeling himself in the batter's circle. Bryce Harper is going to continue to be Bryce Harper. Nick Castellanos looked like he started to get better during the Giants series. JT looks like he's starting to get closer to being his old self again. Right now, you just need to worry about other guys. Alec Bohm's in a huge slump. Rhys Hoskins, you got to find a way to get his bat going consistently. I got to sneeze in a little bit. I can just feel it coming up. I could just kind of... That's one of the downfalls of being live. You get those things, but still, I digress. Overall, like I said, some other guys in the lineup, and I do like that Rob Thompson is using these young guys to, get them more situations. So the more times they play, they're going to eventually get themselves out of it. Like talking about a Rhys Hoskins. Thank you for the bless you, Johnny. But like I said, with Rhys Hoskins, we've known this throughout his entire career. He's an up and down player. When he's in his cold streaks, they're very cold. And when he's in his hot streaks, he can carry an offense. So we've seen glimpses of what a hot Rhys Hoskins can be this season, but we really haven't seen it consistently. We haven't seen the really true hot stretch from Rhys Hoskins. And I do believe that's eventually going to happen from his bat. And the same thing with a guy like a Nick Castellanos. I do believe we're eventually going to see a couple of weeks span when Nick Castellanos is one of the hottest bats in the lineup. Same thing with Kyle Schwarber. So I do believe we're eventually going to go through, those couple of week stretches where, yeah, we're really excited about this team and we're liking the way that, the guys in the lineup are going. But then there's also going to be those times where we're really frustrated with the way the offense is playing. So that's basically what this season is going to be. Can they figure out how to do it more consistently since your schedule is technically going to be getting easier down the stretch? We're just going to have to wait and see what happens during that stretch. So it's going to be an interesting last so many months of the season. There's still a lot of baseball to play with this team. So right now, keep it in an open mind, basically taking it series through series with this team. So basically it's a wait and see process right now. So like I said, not going to overreact after every single game, but I do appreciate when they do give them a good game out there. So they're feeling confident in themselves right now, which is really good. Maurice says that never thought they never thought they say they miss Buck broadcasting. Ooh. Yeah, I kind of do miss Joe Buck on the broadcast, honestly. I think Joe Buck gets like I used to hate him a lot when I was younger, but over the time I did grow to appreciate Joe Buck, and I kind of think he gets a little too much hate now in the sports realm. Now that he's with ESPN, he's basically just going to be doing Monday Night Football. I kind of wish they would get him for the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast since he's now with ESPN. Hopefully that's a thing they can do in the future just to get him in baseball more consistently, but yeah, it kind of sucks with Fox baseball without Joe Buck, and it's kind of going to suck when when you're in the World Series and you're not hearing Joe Buck on the broadcast. So that's kind of going to suck in that aspect. Johnny says two walks for Stott is big, means he's finally settling in at the plate. He isn't trying to kill every pitch thrown at him. Yeah, it kind of does look like he's getting a little bit more confident at the plate right now, which is a really good thing. He had a couple of hits, in the Giants series. He had the home run yesterday. I think a couple of hits yesterday as well. And he had a couple of good plate appearances today. So maybe, Rob Thompson consistently putting him in the lineup, maybe, just the managerial change in general, just kind of spark something in Bryce and Stott. So we just got to see how this goes over a longer period of time right here. Girardi relied too heavily on Alvarado and Familia. Those two have been horrible. Yeah, that's one thing you can blame on Joe Girardi, his management of the bullpen. I believe this is going back to Mike Trout in his slump. He is 0 for 23. Jeez, he is really going for a slump. Brian says, do you think the Phillies can go on a run now and get a record better by the All-Star break? We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Their schedule technically does get easier. They're playing a lot of weaker opponents in the upcoming months. So if we look at their upcoming schedule right now, you got the Brewers after this series, so that's going to be a tough series. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they're not a good team, but they're not a bad team this year. So they're kind of a mediocre team right now. They've beaten the Braves a couple of times in their series, so it's not going to be an easy series by means, but still not as difficult as opponent you have faced in the first 2 months. The Marlins after that. Marlins, for some reason, always give the Phillies a tough time. They're just their Achilles heel at this point. You got a 5-game series with the Washington Nationals, who are one of the worst teams in baseball. So that should be a series that you find a way to take advantage of. Texas Rangers, they swept you in a 2-game series at home earlier, so maybe go back down there in Texas and get some revenge. 4-game series with the San Diego Padres. That's going to be a tough series because they are the San Diego Padres. Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Nationals, Cardinals, Blue Jays, Miami. So the schedule technically does get easier as you go down to the other months. So if you're going to the end of July, you got the Cubs, Pirates, Nationals again. You eventually play the Mets again, like 7 times in a week and a half span. But then you also mix in the Reds in there, the Pirates again, Arizona, Miami, Washington. You're going to be seeing a lot of Miami, Washington, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington. You're just going to be seeing a lot of those teams that are more around, the 500 mark, below 500 mark. So like I said, your schedule technically does get easier over the course. We're just going to see how this team responds to that and how they take advantage of that. So like I said, it's basically a series by a series process with this team. Don't get too high, don't get too low is what I'm trying to stress. Brian also says, do you think we do anything at the trade deadline? I would definitely assume they do something at the trade deadline. I would most likely think they try to do stuff to bolster the bullpen. That's most likely the moves they'll most likely do. Maybe they look into the starting pitching market. That's really the only thing I would think they're going to do. Maybe they try to go out there and get a bench bat. But right now, we just got to see what happens in those processes. I most likely think they are going to look for pitching, most likely depth pitching, bullpen guys, and most likely stuff like that. That's mostly the things I would think they do at the end of the day. What's going on? Will petition for Alvarado. How are you doing on this fine night? Johnny Be Good says, I would like to see them get an arm or two for the bullpen at the trade deadline if they look like they can at least make a playoff run by then. Yeah, I think they're going to be doing that regardless. Maybe going out there, maybe getting some cheap bullpen arms, nothing like too major. So most likely anything to bolster that bullpen. And like I said, maybe they go out and get another depth starting pitching like they did last year with Kyle Gibson. But right now, I would say, who knows, maybe anything could be on the table with this Phillies team. So you just don't know what Dave Dombrowski's going to do. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens when the trade deadline comes, and that's still a very long time away, honestly. When is the trade deadline? Like at the end of July, beginning of August, or something like that this year? Let's see, MLB trade deadline. Trade deadline 2022. When is that? It is, if I can, oh, it's August 2nd this year. So it's not the end of July like it normally is. It's beginning of August. So we got some time. We definitely got some time before the trade deadline happens. So yeah, definitely there. Definitely that. Anything on Twitter currently, just to see if there is anything else that was brought up here. And I think I'm also watching the Colorado Edmonton game. It looks like Colorado won, so they took a 3-0 series lead over the Edmonton Oilers. So that's definitely something that's going to be interesting. Looks like Colorado's going to go into the Stanley Cup Finals. Brian says, in your honest opinion, do you think they should have fired the coach earlier on this season? In your honest opinion? Honestly, I feel like they weren't going to do it that early because you just really rarely see managers get fired in an MLB season. And it's really not part of Dave Dombrowski's MO to can the manager, barely halfway through a season. So I wasn't expecting anything to happen early on. But at this point, you had to fire him. You just couldn't let, the stretch they were going on go any longer. So it was going to happen sooner rather than later. It was just basically when it was going to happen. I wouldn't think they were going to let it last into June. So that's my take on it basically at that point. So I guess they fired him. I know definitely a lot of people would have liked to see Joe Girardi fired a couple of weeks ago. Definitely I would have said that as well, but he's fired now. It's done and over with, and now Rob Thompson is your interim manager. So I guess better late than, I wouldn't say better late than never, because technically it isn't late. It's still only June, and you still got so many months left. But it kind of just with the first 2 months of the season, it just kind of feels like, I don't know. Brian also asked, is there anyone in the minor leagues that you were looking at that the Phillies might bring up sometime this season? That's an interesting take. I'm not sure if I look at some. I know there's been some guys that have been doing well in AAA this year. I know that Mark Appel guy, that was a former first overall pick by the Houston Astros, and he's been with the Phillies organization for some time. He's doing well in a closer role for them in Lehigh Valley, but I'm not sure if anything's on the table with him. I know there are a couple of batters down there that are doing well in Lehigh Valley. I'm not sure if there's any guys that are really keen on them being called up. Not entirely sure. So let me go to their roster and let me just look at their statistics. So if I go to the team, let me go to standings or team stats. Team stats. So if I go to, okay, they're here we go. So can I just go to specific stats? Okay, players. Here we go. Let's see. Is this just their team leaders or something like that? Can I just see? Okay. So we got who's down? Derek Hall. He's batting .274. He's got 15 home runs with 51 RBIs on the year, so he's raking down there. Derek Hall. I know they were talking about, how he's been doing good down there. Could he be someone they call up later on in the season? I'm not entirely sure. I want to see their pitching, actually, to see if there's any guys down there that can, really just, I guess all players and stuff qualified. There we go. Jose Alvarado in 2 games so far in Lehigh Valley has a 0 ERA. So that's interesting for Jose Alvarado. Let me see. And let me go to games, actually. Let me go to games just to see what pitchers are doing down there. Anyone that stands out, really? Dylan Maples stands out, 2.63 ERA. Mark Appel has a 2.01 ERA in 14 games. This Tyler Sear guy has a 1.88 ERA. Brogdon was good when he was down there. Francisco Morales in 6 games has a 1.23 ERA. He was called up earlier on in the season. Oh, geez, Hans Krause is doing terrible. I'm assuming he's injured, or he got sent down even further. Not even sure there. Zack says, do you think the Phillies can catch up with the Mets in the division? Right now, no. I do not think so. With the way the Mets are playing, I think they lost 2 games so far in this series with the Dodgers. I am sure of that. If I go to the Mets schedule, and now they are losing to the Dodgers. And can I see their schedule, their previous games? Mets. So if I go to this series with the Dodgers, yeah, they've lost the first 2 games of this series, and currently they're losing 4-1 in the 3rd inning in LA right now. If I go to the standings, Phillies are still 10.5 out against the Mets. The Braves are 8.5 out. The Mets are 35-19. You would need like a really huge slump by the Mets and a really huge hot stretch by the Phillies and also the Braves to even catch up to the Mets at this point. The Mets have given themselves just like a gigantic separation within the division right now that they can honestly afford to go in a little bit of a slump. So right now, what I've stressed also through even preseason and all that stuff, spring training, I was never expecting this Phillies team to, be, in contention for the division just because the Mets were going to make some damage, and also the Braves too. You can't deny the Braves because they won the World Series last year. You can't forget about them. Even though they're not off to the best start this year, I feel like they are eventually going to get hot just because, yes, they are the World Series champions. Even if losing a guy like Freddie Freeman is a huge loss for that locker room. So we're just going to have to see how that team adjusts throughout the rest of the year. They started off slow last year, and they eventually took advantage of when the Mets slumped in the second half. So that's something you got to look at too. They also took advantage of when the Phillies started slumping too in the second half as well. So you're going to have to wait and see what happens there. I've always stressed 3rd wild card spot, 2nd wild card spot for this Phillies team. And looking at the wild card standings right now, just overall, I think yesterday when I looked at them, I think they were like, let me see. If I go to the MLB standings, like the wild card specifically in the National League, Phillies are 4.5 games out of the last wild card spot. First wild card spot's held by the San Diego Padres. They're 32-21. Second wild card spot's held by the Cardinals. They're 30-23. And the 3rd wild card spot is held by the Giants, who are 28-24. The Braves are 2.5 back at that last wild card spot. The Diamondbacks are 3 games back, and the Phillies are 4.5 games back. So there's definitely something to that. The Phillies are definitely going to be fighting for the wild card basically throughout the rest of the season. So we're just basically going to have to wait and see what happens from that standpoint. Really just going to have to wait and see. So there's definitely a lot more games. Like I said, it's going to be a long rest of the season. So we just got to wait and see basically how this team responds to, a definitely easier schedule, definitely a lot of easier matchups. Can they win a lot of their series against the more bad opponents? Can they take advantage of those? It's a wait and see process. Can this offense be more consistent than not? Who knows? Can this bullpen be more solid than not? Who knows? Starting pitching right now, like I said, I do believe the starting pitching has been more the better thing for the Phillies this year. Can guys like Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, these guys continue to be more consistent than not? Just have to wait and see. Definitely going to have to wait and see with this team. So I think that's going to do it for this one, everyone. Thank you to everyone that joins the live streams and the live feed. As always, I appreciate that. Do not forget to drop a like on this video. Do not forget to put a comment in the comment section down below. I definitely appreciate that as always. Do not forget to check out anything in the description below, the Painted Lines, BrodesMedia, everything else like that. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button as well. And do not forget to use the code TTPSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and I will see you next time.